and integrate their economic structures, then countries don't want to give up their economic structures freely. And if things are going well for the people, and they say, well, thank you for offering us this Amero or North American Union or one common currency across the North American continent, but we're happy with where our economy now, we're happy with our own currency, and we don't need any help right now. But if you throw a man or a country into quicksand, and then all of a sudden they'll clutch at straws, and the straw that they'll clutch at, you already have for them, but they won't reach for it unless you create the crisis and put them in there.
I agree with many people who say, well, the idea for an Amerigo is just fantasizing because there simply is not the political will that existed in Europe. And I say, that's right. I fully agree. But as an academic, I'm supposed to be thinking ahead of what can be done, what should be done, rather than just always accepting the current situation as it is.
If you want to move a population as a whole and galvanize their common thinking as a one galvanized response, and we all agree this, then they give you their will freely to go take them to where you already want to go. If you throw them in that quicksand and then you pass them that straw, and a drowning man will grab at anything, and they're drowning us.
I've been paid very generously all my life, being a professor, devoting myself to putting out these ideas. And my hope is that eventually, if there is a major catastrophe, there will be enough people around who will say, well, this may be the time to try out this new idea. Whether this ever happens, I don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, I've done my job of introducing these ideas into the public domain, and now it's up to your generation of young people, the next generations, to see whether it's worth it or not.
It's a process that they've been using for thousands of years. It's basically order out of chaos, and the idea that death breeds life. They believe if you can cause enough pain and wars and suffering, then out of the ashes of that will emerge their solution to this problem that they created, which is their solution would be oneness, one world, everything. It's also known as the Hegelian dialectic, where you set up the thesis, you also set up the antithesis, so that you can offer your synthesis to the very problem and opposition that you created in the first place.
I mean, that's exactly what these people even talk about. It's the Hegelian dialect, problem, reaction, solution. They cause the problems to happen. You react to it, and you go towards something that they already set up for you from the beginning. And that's how they get what they want, because they understand they can't just get rid of the Constitution. They can't just obliterate your rights. They can't just destroy this economy. They have to think of a plan to do it.
Real freedoms are eaten up a little at a time, while government controls are slipped on, while the real power is collected into a few hands. Where government is not limited, no man is free. Change limited government to unlimited government, and our rights would be only what the master planners say they are. No longer the servant of the people, government would be the master of the people. That's the way to change what we have. Take all power and all freedoms away from the people and collect everything into the hands of one small group with absolute power.
9/11 was one of their plans for a push for a one world government. People saw this outside threat and they ran for the government for help. That destroyed their rights, that invaded countries, that killed millions of innocent people.
A good example is around 6,000 to 7,000 years ago in Egypt, when the Egyptian leaders would have knowledge of the eclipse and the sun cycles. The knowledge had been handed down to them from their ancestors, and they didn't know why an eclipse would happen or how, but they knew when. So they would say, okay, everyone, you have to worship me as your divine leader and your God. Well, I don't want to do that. Who are you? You're just another guy. Why should I worship you? And then he would say, Okay, well, if you don't want to bow down to me, then tomorrow I'll get my god to eat the sun and spit it back out. So the next day when the eclipse would happen, everyone would just marvel and say, oh my god, this guy must be our divine leader.
That day comes by, there's an eclipse, everybody freaks out, and they end up doing as the rulers is, either way they want it or not. Now, there's absolutely no way that we can tell for sure they were doing this or saying that. I'm just trying to show you the potential use of the knowledge in the hands of 5 or 10% of the population. Just manipulation of the information to control the masses. Pretty much what we have today.
I was going to say that. Turn on the TV.
Just the TV, that's right. Media now.
They create order out of the chaos they create. Basically what they do is they take a stable society of individuals who are doing their own thing. They're making a little love, making a little money, making a few mistakes, and living within a given system. Then they introduce radical changes to that system. They introduce radical new ideas.
Our enemy is a radical network of terrorists and every government that supports them.
They introduce radical new threats.
The people of the United States and our friends and allies will not live at the mercy of an outlaw regime that threatens the peace with weapons of mass murder. We will meet that threat now with our Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, and Marines, so that we do not have to meet it later with armies of firefighters and police and doctors on the streets of our cities.
And they get all the people prepared to make entirely new decisions and think in entirely new ways that facilitate more plans for more control by the people at the top.
You're free, and freedom is beautiful. And, you know, it'll take time to restore chaos and order, but order out of chaos, but we will.
Create a crisis, terrify the people into going for a solution that you suggest, which gives you more control. It may temporarily keep the people safe, but in the long run, the people don't know that you engineered the crisis, so they trust you even more, and they get habitualized to accept the next crisis and the next move towards more control. You've got to look at who benefits from that, because the people that benefit from that may have engineered it in order to bring order out of chaos.
The hope that each of us has to build a new world order in which nations and peoples with different systems and different values can live together in peace.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order. It is a big idea, a new world order, where diverse nations are drawn together in common cause to achieve the universal aspirations of mankind. Out of these troubled times, our fifth objective, a new world order, can emerge.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
There's a need for a new world order. In the next few years, a solution will emerge, that people will look into that cauldron and decide that they have to learn their limits. But I think that at the end of this administration, with all its turmoil, and at the beginning of the next, we might actually witness the creation of a new